Oh, now can you hear? Yes, sorry about that. I guess a matter of review. The meeting has started. We've had our roll call. Everybody is here, but the chair, Leo Hochberg, there were no changes to the agenda, and we're on the first item, which is the approval of the minutes. Would you like a moment just to review? I'll wait a moment for you, Bob, while you get them.
I didn't have any changes to them. Anybody else?
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Second.
And a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that was unanimous. Well, the next item is to welcome Eric Howard. We're delighted to have you here, and it's been fun chatting with you. I think I'll just turn over the meeting to you here.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. You were saying before how lucky I am, and I am very lucky to be working for Monique. I just started doing one-on-one interviews with meetings, really, with all of the staff. And I have to say that same sentiment that you expressed earlier has been echoed by every one of them. So it's a really nice thing to see. And it's also really nice to see how much ownership all of the staff takes for what they do. And this is really as much their library as it is everybody else's, which is that really kind of, I think, increases their level of responsibility that they put to the community and to the library. So that's very nice. So thank you very, very, very much for having me here tonight.
Well, we're delighted that you could be here. I think the next item then is, and I apologize, I am due for some eye surgery, so glasses or no glasses, it's just a little bit hard. So we have updates on the opening of the Mitchell Park Library, and you sent out some FAQs today.
Yes, I did actually. The FAQs on the website were just updated today with talking points about that. But in your packets, we were hoping to have someone from Public Works today. However, there is an evening event that most of the other department heads are busy with, and there are, because it is the holidays, there are not as many people around City Hall. So I will tell you that you've, along with the public, have seen letters written to Flintco from Public Works and correspondence back and forth. The council has been in closed session to discuss the matter for the last couple of Mondays, and everything that you're seeing is appropriate to any sort of next steps related to either having Flintco perform better or faster, or making the decision to find them in default. So the insurance, the surety representatives are here, which is another step that needs to go on. It's not as simple a process as you not being happy with the way your bathroom remodel is going and you fire the contractor. So there are a few more steps that are required. Other than that, I did take Eric on a tour last Friday so that he could see what we have there. And I think that some of us who are a little jaded with the whole project forget how truly amazing a building it is and how phenomenal it will be in terms of what we're able to provide. He left saying, "I'm speechless." So I think it's, it is keeping the end goal in mind for us right now is key in terms of what we're preparing the staff to offer. So I will refer you to the library projects page again for the FAQ update and any other information that's available publicly. Keep an eye on the City Council. If there's any City Council reports. And if you have any specific questions that I cannot answer, I'll be happy to pass that along to Public Works. Or there are obviously confidential items that I can't discuss or may not even know. So.
Right. And our chair is here. So, Leo, I'm going to scoot the microphone to you.
I had some questions about Mitchell Park.
Make sure that it's on? Okay,
It's on.
good.
About 3 weeks ago, the city did a walkthrough with inspectors on 27 specific items that were pending. And the idea was to see how many of them were complete, how many of them weren't, and depending on what they found, they were then talking about getting a new contractor, finding Flintco, taking some other actions. Do you have any idea how many of those 27 items were actually accepted? How many are still pending? I'd like to get an idea how we're proceeding on that.
So it depends on which list you're looking at and which letter. So there were, right before Thanksgiving, there were 14 items. Then there were 9 items. And then there is a list of small changes that numbers in the hundreds. So depending on if you're looking at, these are the number of items that we expect to complete and we'll ask for an inspection on. These are the numbers of inspections we've actually asked for. To date, not all, to my knowledge, not all of the items have been satisfactorily resolved. However, the exact number, in fact, they were talking about that today in terms of just working documents and things like that, that there are several different lists. It just depends on where you work in terms of the organization. So I can't give you a definite answer on that one. I apologize.
You mean one department or one, call it overseer, might have a list of 7 and another might have a list of 12, and the 7 and the 12 don't completely match?
That's correct. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Right.
How does anybody know where we are?
Well, that's what the discussion, we had discussions today about the master list, but it's very long, and we, of course, are looking for certificate of temporary occupancy as being the first milestone, and to do that, they need, we have a full-time inspector consultant who works with the building department who is assigned to that project. So we are available to do them if and when they're ready.
The second question I have is that supposedly the city was going to have potential contractors walk through the site this week and see what has to be done yet and give them an idea of what they might be asked to bid on if they were asked to bid. Any more on that, or is that still in the process?
Yep, that is going to take place.
Okay. But nobody has actually set a deadline for Flintco to finish or leave.
It's part of the process that we have to go through. So the surety is now here on site, working with both sides to figure out a resolution or decide what they need to do.
The only other project I can think of that is in the same category was the Big Dig in Boston.
But that one had a better name.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I had a question, and you may have answered it already. So did work stop?
No, work is still going on.
Okay.
No, work is still going on. The same level of quality of work is, we're working to ensure that the quality remains high, that we are focused on a goal of, a certain LEED, LEED platinum, achieving that.
I mean, I understand that there's, the city staff and inspections and things will probably continue. I'm just wondering if the actual construction that is...
No.
So
no,
that part...
That's still going on.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
There are workers on site.
Flinco is the contractor. They continue to work on the items that need to be resolved. Right.
Okay.
Because we're expecting its opening for so long, and lots of people are interested, because we expect that we should have the certificate of temporary occupancy in November. But we're disappointed. We did not get it. It's just because we did not pass the inspection. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are different things that need to be inspected. They either did not complete it, did not request an inspection because the work was not completed yet at this time, or it was completed but not satisfactorily. And in certain cases, there's a amount of time that has to wait till you can re-inspect. There's certain restrictions that way, but yes, that was not achieved in November.
Yeah, but as far as I know, last meeting we had Public Works a person from the Public Works to report the progress of the Mitchell Park building and the construction, everything. As far as I remember, he said that it's almost 99% done.
That's correct.
Yeah, but now it seems that only the left 1%. Delayed us so long. And what is the 1%? What does it include?
Well, like I mentioned, it includes finishes, fixtures, but it also includes systems work. It also includes, getting the inspections for different systems. For example, we had the IT cutover to the network last weekend. That actually went successfully. So that seems to be working. There are other pieces that rely on outside vendors to be complete. For example, the automated materials handling. The vendor had come out 2 or 3 different times to fully install the machine, but pieces were not done by the contractor or by the subs. And now that particular vendor, because they are a worldwide vendor, is unavailable to come back until next year. Of course, next year is now next week. But because there are those delays, they can't just drop everything where they're doing other installations just to come and fix this. We have to get into the schedule. So there may be delays of that nature as well. In terms of the list, like I said, it's a long list of things that need to be corrected, and so it's not any 1 or 2 things.
Okay. Hi.
And I had another question, which I wanted to ask at our previous meeting, but I think the presenter wasn't necessarily, he didn't have, the in-depth answer that I was really after. And it's not necessarily something you're going to know. I'm just, if there's a question you can forward. I'm really still wondering what role Turner has in this whole situation, because just from my understanding, I'm not in construction. Their role was to sort of help out the lack of having city staff in oversight of the whole project and, to manage the contractor. But yet, it just seems like, I'm sure they have, some blame in all of this, but I have never heard anything in any of the presentations about what Turner has actually done. And so I'm just wondering, my question is, what do they actually do, and what part of this delay are they responsible for, and shouldn't they have caught it a long time ago and been better at helping the contractor schedule things? Because it just seems like the city ended up having to sort of do all of this oversight anyway.
Well, actually, the city's working with Turner. Turner has been involved in this all along in terms of trying to get the schedules to make sense, trying to work with the contractor to get them, to work with Flintco to get them up to speed. So I can certainly have someone prepare some information about specifically what they do. But
Yeah, I'm
every
just really curious what they actually do, because it seems like the people that come in to present are usually our city staff, and they're telling us about the project, and they're telling us about all these issues they're having with the contractor. Yet, it's really Turner that I feel. I mean, from my understanding, is that they should have actually caught a lot of this and, to some degree prevented it from happening or getting this bad. And I know the contractor is ultimately, figuring out when the work happens, but it just seems like I don't understand their role in all of this, like what their necessity was. And no one has ever clarified that in any presentation.
Well, I would say that in my experience with this, this is the first major capital project that the city has managed, and a huge one at that, in something like 40 years, and not counting parking structures. I'm correct? Yeah, I think that's right. So the staff capacity for doing that work was not there. There has been a turnover in staff. We have, the city has made requests of Turner to bring on different staff, new people, when they haven't been satisfied with who Turner has had. I think that they feel comfortable and confident now with the people who are working from Turner with the project management. In terms of, what's going to happen at the end, I'm sure there will be some sort of legal work that goes on for a while with, sorting out whatever the situation ends up being. And for now, Turner has been closely working with staff, and they are the people who are on site all the time that construction is going on. So they are really, working closely with Flinco, as well as, ensuring that Flinco has the subs there and that they're working on that management aspect. But I'll be happy to get more information for you.
Yeah, I really just the more specific things. I mean, I understand sort of a global perspective, what they, are supposed to be doing or their responsibilities. I just never got more detail. I mean, do they prepare these monthly updates, or is that done by staff and things like that? Like, what is...
And I would say that over the course of the project, staff capacity has improved because they've been involved in this. And I don't know. They initially did prepare the monthly reports. Whether, to what degree they're still responsible for that, I have no idea.
Okay.
So,
I'm just giving an example of a
Gail
thing.
knows.
I think the staff prepares the monthly reports based on information that Turner has given them. And I think one of the issues then is the communication between Turner and Flintco. And then I think a key element is the communication and issue of people working deliberately, which is between Flintco and the subs. So the subcontractors also, as part of this flow, have not been there consistently, and a lot of work has had to be, there are a lot of change orders that have come into the mix. But right now, no one's particularly happy about where we are. And I think certainly the library staff and Public Works and others have great expectations about the library. And when it's done, it'll be great. It's just getting there. And I think the issue of the legal consequences are going to be significant. So.
Let me ask another question. We had a situation where supposedly Flintco was being asked to provide a certain number of subcontractors.
Mm-hmm.
So it was back to, I think, September.
Okay.
And they were, sometimes our inspectors would go on site and they'd have a third to a quarter of the number of subcontractors that Flintco has been told to provide. Has that been resolved, or are they still coming up short on subcontractors actually doing the work from week to week?
Well, I think that one of the issues with the delays are the number of people who are there working. And I know that one of the things that Turner does is actually count the number of people at site to keep track of who's there, who's available, who's working, whether they're skilled tradespeople or not, just different kinds of things like that. So, again, the numbers are something that fluctuate daily, and in theory, based on the particular needs and the work that needs to be accomplished that day.
It sounds like we may still have a problem with that, with people actually working.
I think one of the issues recently has been precisely what you're saying. It's been an ongoing issue, but with all the letters back and forth between the city letters going to Flint Co. talking about that issue, there has been, I think, better responsiveness. But the question now is, are they able to really do all the things they've said they would do by the dates that they have been given? So that's kind of where we are. But that has been an issue because, in order to get this work done, you need really an intense effort by a lot of subs who have different specialties.
Well, I hate to ask this, but at one time, not too long ago, we were looking at perhaps actually starting to move in February. Any hope?
Well, depending on the number of people that they have working on the project, it certainly is possible. I have, for us, from the library's perspective, we are ready to go. We know what we need to do. We've got that part arranged. We're more, we're ready to go. So we just need the notification, and I don't know that we will actually do any moving when we have the certificate of temporary occupancy, simply because we would want the building to be complete by this point. We want to be sure that we're not getting in the way, that there's not dust or things happening with the technology or the materials, while they're correcting or finishing things up. To actually have the building be complete. So, we're just, honestly, it's as frustrating or more so for us than it is for pretty much anyone else, because the staff, particularly at Mitchell Park, are, I would say, conservatively asked 10 times an hour, by different people. And certainly it's a really good thing that library staff, the customer service training involves answering the same questions repeatedly without acting like it's an imposition, because they've been very graceful under a lot of pressure, and we really do appreciate everyone's patience and help to get us moved in. So, but however, I don't want to close Mitchell Park in anticipation of being able to move in until we're actually confirmed that we can do it, because of so many delays and not living up to the dates, that the milestones that have been set, we could end up with that library closed for longer. And I want to be sure that we're only closed as long as we need to be.
Well, that's a good point, because I was going to mention that your schedule right now is for the temporary branch to be closed for about 6 weeks before the new branch opens.
That's correct.
And Mitchell Park is the most heavily used branch we have right now.
That's correct.
So people are going to be very upset for a month or two when it's closed.
That's correct. But we don't want to extend it any longer.
Extend it any more than we have to. Oh, one positive thing. I drove by Mitchell Park on Meadow today, and the new sign for the library and community center is up.
Yes, and it's both the one on Middlefield and the one on Meadow were installed last month, actually.
Yeah.
So.
It's the first time I'd noticed them, but yeah, they're actually look
Yes,
very nice, too.
all solar powered. They're very nice.
So I have just one question. I know that we have to go through our process, and one of the issues is deciding if Flint Co. is able to go forward or if they're in default and we can get a different contractor. Do we have any idea what's the timeline until that decision will be made? I know they're working on it right now, but...
They're working on it now, and I do not know.
probably doesn't help that it's, the time of year right now either. Are there any other questions? Okay. So item number 4 is December 10th Policy and Services Committee meeting on renaming Main Library.
Yes, thank you to Commissioner Landauer for coming to hear that discussion. As you may remember, we did go to City Council with the recommendation that Main Library be renamed Rinconada, and that had been done following the city policy, going to the commission for discussion and recommendation, sending that recommendation to the PAHA board, and City Council declined to take that opportunity and sent it to Policy and Services for further discussion. Following the discussion regarding possible names or input on process, it remained a 2-2 vote, 2 members voting to retain the name Maine, and 2 recommending that it have additional discussion, I think, with PAHA perhaps, and then coming back to council. When it's a split vote like that, the item is referred back to the city council. And so Gail Price is on Policy and Services, and she'll provide maybe some more comments.
The vote was 2-2. 2 people felt that it would be appropriate to consider naming the library after an individual, and 2 people felt more comfortable because of the history going with Maine. And so when there's a vote like that, as you mentioned, it goes back to City Council for full deliberation again. And so I cannot speak for my colleagues. I don't know where this will go because we haven't really discussed it in full at this point in the process. So now one question I had for Monique earlier was a clarification on the PAHA role. Apparently, they have already weighed in. So now, when it comes back to council, I'll have to update everyone about that and say, reiterating the process that was followed in accordance with the policies. So I wish I had better insight into this because I don't know where the other 5 will come down on this concept or these ideas in terms of naming. But I realize there are implications regarding signage. We've talked about that. That was discussed here as well as in the City Council, so we'll see what happens. It would be nice to resolve this so we can move one way or the other.
Yes, the exterior signage package had the architect had a study session with the ARB Architectural Review Board this morning, and the signage packages that are part of the main process, I think, will be sent to the contractor in February. And I think with the caveat that there is a possibility that the name could change, but most of the name signage at downtown and in fact at Mitchell Park, the sign over the door says library. It's not, it's pretty generic. It's not including the name. So, there are other opportunities for that. So I think we'll be okay on that. But the difference, again, between Rinconada and Maine in terms of number of letters is significant. Right. So, and from a design perspective, you have to plan for that. So, any other questions about the process?
Is there more input from us or some other part of this process that we should be involved in? Because
only if you want to be.
How do we feel about re-voting on our suggestion or discussing our suggestion? Are there any thoughts?
Well, I guess there's 3 things we could do. One of them is we could just kick it back to the city council and say, okay, we made our suggestion, we're not going to make anything. The second is we could come down on one side or the other of the way the Policy and Services Committee came down. See, keep it as Maine or name it for somebody, or we could reiterate our suggestion from previously, name it Rinconada. So, what do you want to do, folks? I don't think anything is out at this point. I would say the same thing. If it goes back to the council,
Right, I mean, it seems to me, and maybe I'm missing something. It seems to me that when it goes back to that level, I mean, it's really wide open again. But the fact is, the city council knows the position taken and the recommendations made here, and I guess it'll depend on what happens in terms of the course of the discussion. So.
And so as a group, if you were to make a recommendation or stick with a recommendation or have no opinion, certainly you, Leo, could send a letter to the council, on behalf of the commission, reiterating your points. That's certainly, I think, probably a good way to handle that. There was actually lengthy discussion about what the motion even was and what the purpose of the discussion was at that meeting. So it's worth going back and maybe reviewing. And Eileen, you were there, so maybe you have some comments or.
Yeah, actually, it's been well summarized by Monique and Gail. There were 3 names potentially recommended, and the names that were recommended were Packard, Hewlett, and Lee. But as noted, it ended up that it was a split 2-2, not with any name selected. It was just a split of did they want a name or did they want to stay with Maine. It did at a few points the word Rinconada came up, and different comments were made in passing as to what they thought about Rinconada, but again, nothing was decided. So I think I didn't really feel that there was any definitive guidance that came out of that meeting at all. Yeah.
So in general, just a lot of discussion, but not a conclusion then.
When a vote is 2-2, I mean, we have to kick it back to the city council.
Exactly.
Because there was obviously not a majority voting one way or the other. Now, I will add, not in the defense of policy and services, but I will add that's not the first time that's happened. Over the years, I've been on policy services, I think 2 years out of my 4 years in city council, and occasionally that happens. We go back upstairs to rediscuss. So,
Okay.
but it is frustrating, especially when the city council said, we need some guidance from policy and services, and then at policy and services we were split. So, just to say we're split, and both positions will move up again in terms of the debate.
Yeah, I for one, I'm not sure which way we want to proceed, but I'll just say my own opinion, that is that I was very disappointed that the name Rinconada was not accepted, as was, my recollection, the foundation board, partly because the Parks and Recreation Department is making a great effort to have a Rinconada cultural area, folding in the zoo and the theater and the children's libraries on the back side of it, and they're going to have paths and wayfinding, and it would be so logical to extend that cultural area that is part of the plan by at least having one of the buildings with that name, so that when time goes on, a few years from now, people simply won't think that hard about it. Oh, it's Rinconada, the Rinconada Zoo, the Rinconada Library, and so forth.
So if I personally were to weigh in, which I think Mary Beth just did. I also would feel, based upon our original discussions and vote, I personally would like to re-recommend Rinconada now, whether it is someone speaking or just a letter. I'm neutral, but I would again, just because I have kind of my notes going into this and the key issues that seemed really important to me when I placed my first vote is it's consistent with the naming scheme of the other libraries, which are locational based. Maine is no longer the largest. It doesn't house administration. There are issues with staff morale, although small because the staff are great, but they did, when I was talking to them, express some issues of the competition and things that name engendered. It's not descriptive at all to users because Maine is not a location or anything else. And my biggest concern is really the conflict with what the foundation has done. So those would be my personal reasons for, once again, reminding council that we thought long and hard about Rinconada, and we had a number of reasons for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the idea of naming the branch for a location is consistent with existing policies. Historical Association agreed. They supported it. And the fact that the Policy and Services Committee is so badly split, my assumption is that the council is going to be split pretty badly also. So going back to Rinconada has a number of advantages, one of them being that it's a nice compromise. And it disassociates the naming of the library from any individual's particular, gee, I think this is the right person to name it for, or gee, I want to keep it the way it was. It's just that, okay, we can't agree on one of those. Rinconada makes sense because location, because of other facilities in the area that are named that way, and it's consistent with city policy, so we'll just compromise and go with Rinconada. So I think that it probably is appropriate for us to resubmit that to the council and just say, well, we think that this is a reasonable compromise, and for the reasons that we suggested originally, we think it fits and it's appropriate.
Yes, I agree, because we spend so many time and we put lots of efforts to make the recommendation. And since there's no conclusion yet, we should recommend one more time to let them know that it is appropriate and it is the best choice for the new library.
I agree as well. The one thing I think that is really working against this is people, when faced with change, tend to stick with what they know, and what they know is Main Library. So I can definitely sense that there's some connection and attraction to keeping the name, because it doesn't seem like there's at least from the council perspective, it didn't seem like there was a clear winner as an alternative. And so it sort of splits the faction of people that want to change, sort of feel differently about different particular names, but people that don't want to change are all sort of stuck on the same one, which is Maine. I think I looked at the date of this, and it's hard to believe, but it's more than a year since we actually made the recommendation. So I agree. We should definitely reiterate our recommendation. I think we should do it formally, because I think we should do it formally, and also, present it to the council when it comes up, because I don't believe we did when it came up.
No, we did not. I mean, when we were planning, we had the planning meeting with the mayor for the joint study session, and we had our outline. It hadn't been, it was clear it had not been a formal item. It had been on, Monique had asked that it be on the consent calendar, and the mayor had moved it off. So it was not a kind of thing that got a chance for discussion, and in a way then the council was kind of caught. So maybe if we come in with our recommendation of Rinconada and all of the various reasons that we think that it's a good way to go, it also would provide a graceful way for the council to move off this issue. And the council is under pressure for a lot of other issues as well. So this might be a way out.
I agree with that last statement completely. And this is a very important community facility, I mean, absolutely. So, okay.
So does anyone, so I don't know if anyone has all of the things, all of the bullet points that we've touched on for reasons why we chose that particular name, but can we craft a motion together and then kind of vote on that particular thing? I think that would be the best, because we all had different pieces of it that I think should be incorporated, which might be different from our original motion, which is or is not here. I'm not sure.
It would have been in the attachments, which we didn't include because
Okay.
it was very lengthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would suggest make a motion. We can go back to the recording and get the points. I doubt that it will come onto the agenda in January. It might be early February would be more.
We have one meeting in January plus the installation of the new mayor.
Right. So it's more likely that something will happen in February. So I don't know if you want to appoint a subcommittee to craft a letter, however you want to do that. It's entirely up to you.
Well, I think we have momentum right now, and we've already been discussing it. Let's craft the motion now, because it's funny, as we're discussing it, I'm starting to feel the emotional connection I had when we originally discussed it, which I think is another reason for us to reiterate this, because it's been so long that it's hard, we don't remember our discussion until we start really seeing that we weren't just neutral on this name, saying, well, it seems good enough, but we were actually... let me speak personally. It's something that took me over the edge of this particular name was there were all these reasons for it. It wasn't that it just happened to be the one that was the least bad one. It was actually a good name.
Yeah, I think we had some proactive passion about it.
Yeah.
Well, I can start a motion. I move that the Library Advisory Commission recommend to the City Council the name of Rinconada for the current facility that's currently called Maine. That we request the staff to supply us with our background documents, that we appoint a subcommittee to write a letter to council and to present that letter.
I'll second that. We can discuss it, how we want to manipulate the wording later, but the concept I think we ought to be discussing.
Okay, so is there discussion on this motion? Or further discussion? Or does anyone have anything to add? Or
I would say that one of the things we should add is to recognize that the Policy and Services Committee could not come up with a firm option other than Rinconada. And we think that rather than have the council spend a lot of time thrashing this around, where there is obviously no clear consensus as to what the name should be, and we've presented valid reasons why Rinconada is perfectly reasonable, that we would like to recommend it again and suggest that the council should adopt this as a compromise between other options which do not seem to have strong support. Just put it that way.
Can I make a clarification? When the Policy and Services received the motion from council, it was to consider either a name of historical importance to Palo Alto or retaining the name Maine. Rinconada was not part of the discussion, and it was regarding using PAHA for assistance with selection of a name. So that there was no discussion of Rinconada. So just to be clear in terms of Policy and Services, when that name came up, it was that had been recommended at some other point, but that was not a point of discussion for them.
Well, then that's a good point, because Rinconada does have historical importance. This area was originally called Rinconada de San Francisquito. Yeah. And the area, which is Rinconada Park, was a Rinconada, I don't know what the Spanish term for it was, but
It was a land grant.
a land grant,
Right.
yeah. So Rinconada does have historic importance. So let's make a point when we respond to the city council that this is consistent with the council's directive to have a name which has historic importance. And that's one of the reasons we selected Rinconada, historical importance.
I think theirs was a person of historical importance, not just the name, but a name of a person.
Well,
So-
we're expanding it a bit.
and that's entirely up to you. I just want to be clear.
But I do agree with Monique. I remember the discussion where the thought was a person, whereas Rinconada as land grant was a thing. So, but I think we can still have our motion and still write our points.
Well, and you probably saw this inclusion for item 4 from Herb Barak that is quoting a city policy that existing place names are deemed to have historical recognition, but unless there are compelling reasons to do so, you should not change it. And it seems like this is actually a perfect time, and there are compelling reasons to change the name, because the facility is basically completely being gutted, top to bottom. Literally, the floor has been ripped out and repoured. So, not that the building itself is losing its historical nature, but it's like a rebirth of the building. So it is. I don't think it goes against this particular policy, although I'm sure there's some things in the ... that he did not include. But it seems like there is a reason to rename it. It's not. I don't think it would go against city policy to do so for any new name. It seems like now that we've had this sort of simmering for a year, coming back to it actually is important, and I would be very supportive of this motion, although I think we should have all of the bullet points that we've discussed. Well, not every single one, but the ones that are not repetitive. So you're saying that Evelyn or someone will get it out of the minutes, or should we actually iterate them?
Well, no, I think if you want to make and you can either vote on this motion and make another motion or make an amendment to this motion, but I think then you need to clearly state each statement that you want to have included in that motion. So what I hear you saying is, something along the lines of the Library Advisory Commission, reaffirms their selection or their nomination of the name Rinconada to the City Council because, and then list the reasons that you want, and encourages the City Council to adopt that, name, or adopt that to rename Main Library, however you want to word that. But I think is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah. I think it should be part of the motion itself
Yes.
to iterate the reasons rather than just re-recommend what we said before and then have a separate document, which I think we should present something anyway, but I think
Sure.
it being part of the motion will actually, it becomes part of the official reasoning in our record. You don't have to read the minutes. You see everything when you're looking at what we're proposing. So that would mean an amendment.
Okay, well,
Retract her.
I can, okay, I amend my motion that we will prepare a document with a list, or rather, we will make a list of points for the council as to why we are recommending Rinconada as the name for that particular library.
I think what he's asking is that you actually state the list right now as part of the motion. So,
Maybe we can just add small amendments to that list as we go around, instead of you having to remember all of them. That might be the easiest way to do this.
Ouch. Yes. Eileen, you started with a list.
Could I ask you to remove your motion, and I will make a new one?
I will remove my motion in favor of another motion.
and Bob, do you need to be okay with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
It's the first time that's happened in my 6 years.
Subject to discussion, my first pass motion would be recognizing the Policy and Services Committee could not reach consensus. LAC is re-recommending adopting a name change for the library facility at, I don't know the number, Newell Road, to Rinconada, consistent with the naming scheme of other libraries. The reason for the renaming of Maine is manyfold. It no longer is the largest, doesn't house administration, causes some small staff morale issues. It is not descriptive to user, and it is in conflict with the foundation fundraising scheme, naming rights scheme.
And then I would like to add.
Wait, we need a second.
Oops.
I think in this case it's more than a person. I'm sorry. I think in this case you would like to add something to that list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
And
leave it open.
I'm
and then
quite happy because I said this was a draft.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We were talking about the reasons in support of Rinconada, to support the rationale for the Rinconada.
Correct.
So another rationale is that it will become part of the Rinconada cultural area as planned by the Park and Rec Department, with its wayfinding signs and its other buildings in that Rinconada Cultural Center that are going to be renamed, such as the zoo.
I would add to that also Rinconada has historical significance. Actually, maybe Bob should be adding this one. Named for Rancho Rinconada. Is that what?
Yeah, we had that included in the initial background information,
Okay.
but we can get the exact name of the land grant.
Yeah. I mean, it has historical significance. I think is important for being part of this particular name. Oh, and one other thing is, this is not part. There's another list actually, which is related to not just why this name, but why rename it at all. And maybe we should get all the reasons for this name first. I would add that a reason why to rename the library is because this is such an overhaul and renovation of the entire facility, and that it's essentially getting completely rebuilt. So it is appropriate to, christen it with a new name.
And its function has changed from it is now a branch library, and the main activities are taking place in the Mitchell Park facility.
Well, I don't know that that's actually 100% true because
Okay.
technical services used to be located in downtown, actually. So, they've always been broadly distributed, and I think that many of the activities will remain the same. So
problem with that.
size and function may not be as critical or compelling an argument, I think, as maybe some of the other points.
Okay.
Well, I would suggest that we do talk about how it's appropriate to consider renaming the library because of the modifications of construction which have occurred. So this is an appropriate time for it. And considering that, we think that Rinconada is the correct name.
Are there any other specific points that we want to make for this name, specifically for the Rinconada name? I think we've covered everything.
I think those are the important points to put in. The only other thing you might want to put in is that we think that it's already been mentioned that the Policy and Services Committee couldn't come up with a recommendation, so we might mention that this, we think, is a reasonable compromise, and will make it easier for the council to agree on an acceptable new name for the facility.
I would actually disagree with it being a compromise. I think it's actually a very good name to name the facility because we're not compromising amongst each other. We actually
They are. The way I wanted to phrase it was, it would make it easier for the council to come to an agreement and compromise on a name which has real meaning for the community.
Mhm. Eileen, do you want to finish your motion
Yeah.
now that we've listed? I'm sorry,
Or
Evelyn.
perhaps reread for the poor secretary who's been.
So on record, poor secretary, have you got all of that, or do you want me to try to get all of that? Because I was trying to take notes and I.
Between you and me, what I have and yours, it should be fine.
Okay.
Because when you started, since you were reading off from there, I didn't write it down anymore, except the following discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. Okay, so what you want is
I
me
put
to
it all
type
together and
this
then
up.
send it.
Deal. How about I will type it and give it to you? Can we approve it subject to?
We
proper-
can. I think, why don't you finish the motion? Maybe.
You mean
Compl-
try to reread?
No. We've already started it. We need to round it off and have a second. And then, so we can vote on it.
So are we still on the motion, or are we on the discussion part?
I think we are still creating the motion.
Yeah, we're still in the
Okay.
motion.
I would just like to say to make the wording maybe a little more neutral, to not to use the word main library in the motion, but actually we just refer to it as the library at 1214 Newell Road.
1213.
1213.
Yeah, and that was in the motion.
Okay.
That was in the motion. Okay, so this is going to be off of really roughly written, but rather than trying to say what I said and amend it, I would withdraw my prior motion and I would start again trying to say that recognizing that the Policy and Services Committee could not reach consensus, the LAC is recommending the adoption of a name change for the library facility at 1213 Newell Road to Rinconada. This is consistent with the total makeover of the facility, its modifications and constructions. The reasons for renaming this facility are many-fold. It is consistent with the naming scheme of all other library branches. this branch is no longer the largest. It doesn't house administration. The current name creates a small issue of staff morale. It is not descriptive to users, and choosing the name of an individual would create conflict with the fundraising scheme of the foundation. Also, it will be part of the Rinconada Cultural Center, which will be a consistent naming scheme of the facilities of the area, and the name Rinconada has historical significance in that it was originally named under the Rancho Rinconada del Arroyo de San Francisco land grant.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to discuss about this motion? Okay, seeing no one having additional discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All against? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. And so it seems like the next step after this will be part of the official agenda or official packet when it's agendized is anyone interested in crafting a letter, or just maybe we can go individually and actually just present at this particular meeting as members of the LAC? I think we've said everything we really wanted to say, listing it out in this motion, and just speaking to it, I think will just show how much we care about this particular item.
And you have council buddies, do you not?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another option to consider.
But I think it's important for the public to also hear those reasons.
Yes, absolutely. But I want to be sure that you are aware that, as you are advisory to the council and can keep them informed of what activities and actions you've taken as a way to update them.
I'm not sure if I should weigh in here or not. I frankly think a letter to the council makes a lot of sense, and then individuals speaking to it, or the chair of the committee, or working with your buddies. I mean, if you feel strongly about this, I think an explicit letter, then the press looks at that. It's clear, but I guess the question is who would draft it if you want to do that. And I am not in any way suggesting what to do, but it's just an observation. I think it would be useful, but it's your call completely.
Well, I appreciate your comments because you sit on the council, so you know what it feels like when you are presented with something. So what is the easiest way for clarity when it comes to you? And I'm happy to volunteer to work on a letter. So then we would have a letter that would accompany our formal recommendation. And then I would, once we do that, we should probably have Monique send it to the council, but each one of us should make an appointment with our council buddies and present it to them and be there for them for questions.
So Leo could send them the letter. It doesn't have to come from me.
Okay.
And it should be signed by the chair of the commission, and perhaps you as the vice chair. And then you guys, there is a city council email address, so it's fairly simple. And then it will be included in the public record. And again, as Councilmember Price has indicated, that does go out as part of the packet, and the press sees that, the public sees it. So there will be no misinterpretation of what you guys are recommending.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying that the official motion is important, but having the letter is equally important. to some degree.
Only speaking as Gail Price here. I know that's impossible. I'll never just speak as Gail Price again, since I'm on the city council. But I think that's an appropriate approach, because it's clear, it doesn't get caught up. You think of all the volume of information that we receive.
Yeah.
There will be clearly the motion, but I think it makes it very clear to people reading it. And if you want clarity and to be specific about your recommendation, I think it makes sense.
Okay. Well,
Let me put it this way. We've already made the recommendation to the council, and the council didn't adopt it. So a letter saying, well, we're doing this again, and we're doing this because we're trying to help you out. And we discussed this at our last LAC meeting, went over it extensively, and we think it is appropriate at this point to resubmit our recommendation for the name for what is currently Main Library, per the attachment. And if you want to go on more than that, that's okay, but the idea is that we should explain that we're doing this because we're trying to help them, trying to resolve an issue that we think is important. And this is why we're resubmitting it. It's not that we just, keep pounding at it, that we're trying to make things work better for them and for the community.
yeah, it just seems like considering when we last discussed this and voted on this, it seems like it's sort of been through a whole process, yet we're back exactly where we were then. And it's good that we feel the same, and in some sense feel more strongly, I would say. And I think that we should definitely show that to council. Will there be an LAC meeting between another meeting between now and when this would go before council?
It just depends on when it goes on the calendar. Your next meeting is scheduled for February, and that you can certainly opt to have another meeting in between a special meeting, but again, it could get put off. I don't always control when everything appears on the agenda, so there are many urgent issues.
Right. But, and they're always trying to figure out what works, how many items at one night, how many action items, et cetera. So.
Right.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is if we formed a subcommittee, I would, if we did have the chance to, all, have some feedback on that particular letter before it was sent, I think that would be better because it would represent us better. But at the same time, well, probably sending it not just now, it's a little bit too early to send it. I think it would make more sense to send it as part of that particular.
Once you know when it will appear on the agenda.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So perhaps having a subcommittee actually work on it makes sense instead of trying to get it written and out ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
So are there two of us that are interested in crafting this letter? I already heard one volunteer earlier.
If you'd like me, or you can be yourself.
I would be happy to. I don't know if I'm going to have the time. That's my only concern right now. And I think if it's actually signed by all of us and not just me, I think it would actually be even stronger. So having us discuss it and sign it as individuals on the LAC, I think would be even stronger a statement. So, and we can't do that unless we have a public meeting because we can't email everything around to each other.
No, I'm not sure that's true. You could have a subcommittee write the letter and then email it to the rest of the committee and ask them to sign it, because it's only a public document when the committee has submitted it formally. I don't think you have to have a public meeting in order to discuss the details of what's in the letter.
I believe we do.
It doesn't strike me as a requirement under the Brown Act. And it's perfectly legal for you to appoint, as chairman, to appoint a subcommittee to write the letter and circulate it. That seems like a reasonable way to do things. I don't see any problem with it.
I'm not sure. It seems just that we're not supposed to be communicating on these particular issues outside of the public meetings, and I'd rather. I think a letter, it would be better worded if it was written by one or two people and we can just give some feedback and physically sign it before sending it.
So just for clarification, just in the event that it hits calendar before we do it again, if the committee were to draft a letter and send it to Evelyn, and Evelyn sent it to each person individually, could they comment back to Evelyn and have her put it together, or is that a serial meeting?
Well, what I would suggest is that you appoint a subcommittee and you authorize that subcommittee to write a letter. And then you don't spend time fiddling with it necessarily. Basically, I mean, the motion itself, to me, sounds like the very good basis for a compelling letter, fleshing it out a little bit more with perhaps talking about how long you've been discussing it, why you felt it had historical significance, and then, respectfully requesting they reconsider this name, and that you would be, you look forward to hearing their discussion when it's, at the next meeting, and then I think having people come in to sign it in the building, that is fine. I think if you're willing to have a subcommittee work on it, you don't necessarily have to bring it back for more discussion, unless you really feel strongly about the need for that. And then that probably should happen in a public forum. I would say that we can certainly time the getting this on the agenda to follow the next meeting, if that's what if that's the commission's preference. I have the ability, we have the ability to get items sort of on the advance agenda so that we're already there, they know it's coming, council will know when it's coming, and it's a placeholder. Now there could be some emergency thing that happens that gets us pushed back farther, but knock on wood, that won't happen. And, and so we could certainly do that. That also helps you all know what night it will be on the agenda and whether you wish to attend.
I would be. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just want to say that I think from my part, I would fully trust and I would fully support what you would write the letter. So I don't think we need to go back and forth to comment on the letter, because we spent a lot of time to discuss about the renaming to Recanada. So we know what we really want to do and we know why we choose this name. So I fully support.
And I agree. That's what I was going to say too.
So I just have one monkey wrench. Are you going to be at the February 27 meeting?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because I have not missed a single commission meeting while this active term, but with the extended term, I have a pre-existing commitment and I can't meet that meeting. But I'll make sure that our letter is done, our recommendation is done, and you can present it for us.
Well, I think what they're saying is that you don't even necessarily need to present it, that the subcommittee would be authorized to write the letter. Boom.
And I would strongly urge us to all sign it. Because I think that really shows that it's really, we're all in agreement. It's not just, I think it's, okay.
So it might be good to have a motion about the subcommittee and who will be on it, and that everybody either agrees or disagrees or abstains or whatever.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we form a subcommittee to craft a letter based on our recommendation for renaming the currently named main library to Rinconada, and that subcommittee consists of Eileen Landauer and Mary Beth Train. And is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it. Are you accepting it?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you. I believe that concludes item 4 for now. Item number 5 is continuing discussion on library publicity and marketing strategies.
This item began last time, and Sheena had some questions and requests. And so we brought it back just to see if there was any additional discussion that you wanted to have. I think we were a little bit unclear on exactly what you were hoping. I know you wanted to see printed materials, and you wanted to see the, for example, the information that we have, just the general information, location and hours and things like that. And I wanted to let you know that as part of the logo development and the branding that we developed last year, some of those items are being revisited and redone. So I thought we would wait with presenting those, although the staff did tell me that historically that 3-fold brochure or 4-fold used to be 8 pages long. 8.5 by 11. So it's already a lot better. And it is it is wordy. There are lots of pieces of information, but they are typically the most frequently asked kinds of things. The other thing that happened was that when the library staff did a study session with council, one of the comments that Councilmember Burt made, and perhaps others, were, this is all really great, but even I don't know about this. So how are you getting that information out? Given Eric's experience handling campaigns, communication campaigns, we're going to look at specifically developing a strategy, including it as part of the strategic planning for next year. And I don't know if you want to say anything about sort of what you've been investigating about marketing, or if there's anything that you want to talk about.
Well, I have to say, again, I'm very lucky that when I came here, Monique had already started in on a lot of great tools that will help build a foundation for that, namely the survey we're doing with Orange Boy, which will help us learn more what the stakeholders feel about the library. And so that will help us shape the narrative about what the library means to the community. And so it's that story that we're going to obviously build on to find the direction for the marketing. So that is, at this stage, I'm really doing kind of like a fact-finding meeting with each staff member. So kind of duplicating in some ways what that survey was doing, but trying to hear it from their words, and then meeting with customers and learning what they have to say. So that is going to inform the marketing strategy. So I don't have too much to say at this point, but we did put out 2 press releases already this week. You may have seen them. So we are working to get the word out. One of the things that I've heard asked a number of times is people have e-readers and they don't know how to use them. So, and now we have the Chromebooks. So you saw in both press releases, we included information, and maybe you didn't see it all because we were communicating in addition to those press releases directly to some journalists, that we will be providing a program coming up where no matter what e-reader you have, you'll be able to come into the library and meet with somebody and learn how to use it. So that was one of the things that the city council, I think, was asking about. A lot of people didn't realize many of the services that the library provides. That's one of them. And so we're taking every opportunity at this moment to try to communicate that to the media and to that way to the public. So, but at this stage, the surveys that we've done and that feedback that we get is really crucial to putting together any type of media campaign.
Thank you. I think why I had this question, just like the council bird feels, because we have so many wonderful services, but not many people know about it. So that's why I think marketing is important. You have to let people know. Especially we have high volume of ebooks and electronic magazines, and we have this kind of service. I don't know our marketing strategy. Well, we only focus on our local community, or we would also focus on internet community. So I really hope that we would have very clear strategy for the marketing, and I hope that more people will benefit from what we serve. Okay, thank you.
I guess I have a question for you, and that is, in your experience, what are some of the more effective ways to get out information about what services and materials are available to patrons? I mean, other than the things we're already doing, like having brochures or putting it on a website, although our website needs some help as well. I'm just wondering, are there different strategies that you've seen that are unexpected, that might, that are... What I'm asking is, we offer so much, yet people have no idea what we offer. Sometimes we're surprised about what we offer because, despite all of us being on the commission. So I'm just wondering, are methods and techniques to actually get information about interesting services that people may not even think that the library would offer? What have you seen, I guess, if you can offer something?
Well, I think we have to first figure out what that narrative is and really synthesize it, and that's what we attempted to do with these two press releases. And one of the press releases that you didn't see is when we send these out to reporters, we also add little notes in there to try to tie things together. So, for instance, the first press release was on the new service that we have that we're working with for getting ebooks. But what's important then is to tie in the services that we're providing. So the first permeation of that press release was just on the ebook service, but it wasn't telling the full story about what we're doing with helping people learn how to use those ebooks. Then the second press release told another piece of that story, and it was the fact that the collection development team did a phenomenal job. They got all the books that ended up on the New York Times notable list. So again, though, that didn't tell the full story that until we worked on it some more, that it also includes the number of those are also ebooks that we have. And then in those emails that we sent out to reporters, we also inform them again that we provide this service. So it's a matter of taking, I think, a lot of times weaving together this larger narrative. And we're doing that to some extent, but we're not doing it to the extent that I think could be done. And then once you start connecting the dots for people, then they begin to see the full tapestry of what the library is offering. So that's a piece of it that I've started to observe from the beginning, and then I'm trying to work on with the rest of the team.
But the issue is, are those press releases actually getting? I mean, we read them because I assume we read them. We get them directly in our inbox, but I don't know. I mean, I've never seen an article like that in the newspaper, the local paper, that says, hey, the library did this thing. I mean, it's usually something about the Mitchell Park project or something like that. It's not, those articles, as far as I've seen, don't typically get, it's not necessarily news that is written in the newspaper.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, and on top of that, even if it was in the paper, not that many people are necessarily reading
Yes.
the local newspaper.
Right.
the New York Times is not reporting on Palo Alto's library having all 100 books, even though it's a nice accomplishment. It's not necessarily, newsworthy at a level that people might even read, even if they're local. So I'm just wondering, outside of, unless I'm wrong, I mean, are you getting these published in newspapers?
Well,
Is that how it works?
Ideally, that's how it works. I've only been here a couple of weeks.
Okay. I know.
But no, it's a good question. I understand. I think I understand where you're coming from on that. And what I saw when I first came in here, though, Monique had the gold standard. This was prior to doing the release. She had a meeting when I walked in with a reporter. When you can get a reporter to come and visit you, that is the gold standard. You're building a relationship, so it's not just a release that's going off into the universe that no one picks up. So then you follow up with a release. So we'll see where we go with those meetings. But you're right. It is not just the release. The release doesn't do anything unless you build a relationship with the media. And I think a lot of libraries, not a lot, but that's a critical thing that is often lacking. And you can that's where you have to go back to tying the whole story together. And it takes a lot of work. But in terms of other marketing things that I think are worth exploring are mailings. I don't think too many libraries do that. We certainly do it on political campaigns, and the reason why people do it in political campaigns, even though people can't stand getting all of those mailings, is because they work. You can really have these companies do a lot of research to figure out who needs this information and who's not getting it, and then you can target those direct mailings to them and really then finesse the message that you're trying to get. And I don't think too many libraries are doing that. I know Queens has, which is the system that I just left. I listen to Pandora on my laptop, and it's strange because the system still thinks I live in Queens, so I'm listening to ads that Queens has placed through Pandora, and they're very powerful ads. Queens does a lot of job services, so they train people on how to get jobs, and they provide all sorts of certificates for people who are trying to seek jobs, but they package this in a really, really powerful way in their audio advertisements, and they're coming across through Pandora. So they have figured out. I'm sure they have contracted with a marketing firm that's figuring out this is the group that we're trying to get, and this is how you're going to get it. So they have spent. It's an investment of money. So this is something that if we're going to do a full marketing program, we've got to really think about how we're going to pay for that and how that's going to work. Because there's a lot though in the NGO world, which I helped consult on. We had to be very creative because we had a very small budget, and so we did all sorts of creative ways of getting the media. So it wasn't just the press release, but really doing certain activities and inviting the press to cover it and telling your story that way.
I have a question.
Sure.
With the LAC or the library department, would it be, can you use a utility bill? Can you put inserts in utility bills? I can't remember if other departments have taken advantage of that.
Yes, we have. Actually, we recently sponsored a utility insert for the Friends of the Library, so we can get on that. And I do want to say that, it's great. We're excited to be thinking about this. And I wonder if part of Bert's question was, you must not have a lot of people using these services because we don't know about them. But honestly, the programs that you have to register for, they're usually full in the first 24 to 48 hours. So we have a waiting list. Right now, our capacity is not at a level where more marketing is going to necessarily be helpful. Now, that can be a good thing when you're always on the waiting list because it's so in demand. Yet, on the other hand, if you're always on the waiting list, you're going to get frustrated at some point. So, a lot of this is, again, leading up to having full capacity, having more meeting rooms, having more volunteers, having, a real shift in how we present services. And the fact that these services, these programs and services are so popular, everything from, VITA, the tax assistance for low-income seniors, to children's story time, summer reading program, all those different things are so popular. And really, other than summer reading program, those only have started in the last few years. Ned really loosened up, Ned Himmel, the interim library director, loosened up the ability to offer wide-ranging programs, and staff has really responded. So from all levels in the organization, they're working on planning this. And again, I think, figuring out who the target audiences are, which is exactly what Orange Boy is doing, that will really help us craft the right message for those different groups, as well as think about what are the services that will best meet their needs. So I did want to be clear that, there are children's programs where we have had 800 people come. So it's not like, nobody knows about it. So I want to be sure to get that out.
I think the thing is, it seems like the programs are very well attended. It's just the things that I keep hearing about, and especially when I tell people that are in the community that, hey, did you know that the library offers this service? It's not necessarily a program that they missed or didn't hear about. It's going to be, hey, did you know that we have Safari books online? You can look at any of them anytime. You don't have to buy the book. You can just go with your library card.
Absolutely. I understand.
And countless other things. That's the example I use because that's what I normally am looking for. Right. And so there are all of these resources that we pay for, that we have available, that I'm certain are underused, or underutilized, just because it's not visible. We have lots of them. If you look in this brochure, there's so many different things, and I'm just wondering if, maybe it is, it's all about cross-pollinating. When someone is reading about something that the library did, you kind of, hey, you can check out some ebooks. You don't have to just come and pick up a paper copy here. But anyway, I think, it sounds like the programs are not our complaint at all. I think it seems that it's just these other services we offer. Like, I actually tried Freegal for the first time, and it's pretty cool. And I guarantee you very few people actually know that it exists. Well, because even me, it took me so long to try it, even though I've been hearing about it.
Well, there are a number of users who wait anxiously for Monday to come for the reset. So, it is. I agree with you. Could we have more? Yes, absolutely. And all of those things, require time. For example, we have all the mission books online for fourth graders doing their California mission reports. And so the use of that over a month went up dramatically because we did class visits. We actually sat there and presented this as a way to, ace your California mission report. And so it was heavily used. So we're looking at, a combination not just of marketing, but hands-on instruction and, a sort of holistic approach to how do we introduce these things, because some of them I think are intimidating to some people. We have two different ways of learning a foreign language or learning English if you're not an English speaker, both online, and part of it is sort of having freed up some resources to invest into these things and seeing which resonate most with the users. But again, it is about marketing it and getting people to try it.
And I have been a reporter for more than 10 years. So I know it's really hard to convince those reporters and editors to believe that we have the news service, which is worth reporting. Sometimes it's really hard because we have very limited time and space for the stories like that. But I think building up the connection, relationship is very important to let them know constantly what we are doing. That is a very good start. Another thing is that I would like to suggest, as Monique mentioned, that we have the mission, something that we just go to the class and let students know about. We have this kind of materials they can use. I think that's pretty good because that's personal communication. And another thing is that I know that the middle school and maybe high school, they do have their station. I don't know if you know that. My daughter's in JLS. They have a TV station, and every morning, all of the students in that school have to listen to their reports. So I think that's a very good way for us to promote our services, because I think they're kids. Yeah, they are teenagers and they are very good at the electronic devices. And we provide so many electronic services. And I believe they are our targets. And for the free gal, I think many teenagers probably, some of them know, that's why they are waiting for Monday, but some of them don't. And we have so many books, even some educational books. I log on to the Enki. There are so many categories they can choose. They can help them academically or some other information they can use. So maybe we can do this kind of approach and to let more students and more residents they can use, because once they know, they will pass the information to their parents, to their friends, and, especially if you have to listen to the news every morning, then you would know no matter what. So maybe that's a good approach.
Great idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just thought about something, because almost nobody I've ever met likes Monday mornings, but this is a reason to like Mondays again. Right? You get some free music.
Yes, you do. And good free music.
Yeah, it's a really amazing selection. I found some things that I didn't even know I would enjoy or could find, so it's really nice.
One of the things we can consider is different ways we get the information out to a range of people. I mean, it's nice to go to the school and tell the kids this is available, but we have 3 newspapers in town, and we can send press releases out. Free Gal is available. It does this, and like the notice that we got today about how the library has all 100 of the New York Times best books for 2013, and 99 from last year. We can send that out as a press release and name some of the books, that we've got as an example, ones that people are looking for. And then we also have internet newspapers like Patch. You can send out, here's something from the library. And one of the advantages of that is that after you've done it 3 or 4 times, people become aware of the fact that that's a site you can look for information. So, when you subscribe to a new service, another good example is some of the publishers have actually allowed us to buy the ebooks, which we hadn't been able to do before. So mention that. Now we have ebooks available, and here's where you go to pick them up. So any of these things where we're doing something, send it out to those local papers. The Post will print it, the Weekly will print it eventually, and Patch will print everything. So distribute the information around, see how you get. The other thing is that you can get an idea of what the impact is when you send out a press release to an organization, and if you then get a response that you can tie to that press release, then that's the organization people read. I think it's worth at least pursuing. Whether it's going to be successful long term, we'll find out.
Yeah, no, I think I think there are ample opportunities for collaboration too with the schools. I think that's a great idea, and I'm just jotting down some of this. Like, I like the headline for like something that says, simply what you wrote or what you just said, a reason to like Mondays. I mean, it could be as. But and the other thing too that we're working on is trying to get more people, when they get library cards, to automatically get those e-newsletters that we get. Because right now, I think currently there's 4,000 people that get those for the e-newsletter. Altogether, there's 5,000 because we have different services. We have you're probably all aware of that, with give you the latest nonfiction or latest information on fiction, but in addition to that, the staff writes a e-newsletter, and then that goes out. And so right now that's 4,000. So there's great opportunity to send that out, and then also to just make people aware of how popular these programs are, because not only are they not aware of some of these services, not everybody's aware of such a great job that the library is doing, and that's a story that we have to tell as well. So.
Just a suggestion, I received the email from libraries routinely, and the subject always, what's on library, something like that. I would suggest, if we have something new,
Okay.
why don't we put on the subject?
Yeah, good idea.
Then, sometimes people are too busy. What's on? I don't remember the subject. It's like, what's in the library, or what's on the library, something like that. Always the same subject every time when I receive the email. Maybe that's the way, but if we do have something new, like a press release, you mentioned about the Enki and the other thing, why don't we just put it on the subject? Then people probably will kind of brighten their eyes, and they will try to click it to know what is Enki and something like that. Otherwise, maybe they're too busy and they would skip the email like that. Just a suggestion.
Okay, it seems like the discussion has quieted down. There's no particular, no actions. We can move on to the next item. Item number 6 is 2014 LAC priorities. I will start us off reminding us that our continuing goal that we voted on at the previous meeting was to support the library staff in whatever way was needed for getting this facility open. And at the time, we believed it would have been around now or soon that it would have been happening. But although I don't see any reason to change our priority from what we had, since the library is not open yet. Are there particular things that we could do now?
Well, I think we probably ought to.
It's on.
We ought to also think about how we can get the word out about library services. The library's providing a lot more, and one of the things that I'm hoping, when Mitchell Park opens, we're going to be able to provide things we hadn't been providing before. Meeting rooms, study areas, the collection is going to be bigger. We're going to have the cafeteria and the community room next to it. So I would say for a month or two after Mitchell Park, just before, 2 or 3 weeks before it opens, we put out a press release or two. Here comes the new Mitchell Park. It's going to have all these wonderful things. And then when it opens, here it is. And in addition, if your class would like to be able to meet there, here's how you can make reservations, that sort of thing. But the idea is to get people aware of the fact that the library is providing all of these new services that we didn't do before. And it's available, and it's for our community, so that we can get the word out. I think that, there's a lot of different ways we can do it, but I think the intent is to inform people about the facilities, the staffing that is now going to be available to them, and the opportunities they have to use it, and see what the feedback is.
I have a totally different thing that's on my mind, which is I can't remember about you, Leo, but I think I know Eileen and I are going off on the LAC in April. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3 out of 5. And we might want to think about, if we're doing publicity, recruiting our replacements. How best to, and that might be something when we meet with our council buddies over the name of Rancanata. Also, what do you need from your advisory commission? We are here to advise you. We think the staff and Monique and Eric are doing a great job. We want to support that. But maybe getting that into the discussion, and I am thinking that maybe some of the people who might be, our replacements might be some of the ones that the staff has been reaching out to, like, say, somebody in the schools, like a teacher, or I was reading the, frantically trying to catch up the study session that the library had with the city council, looking at those slides and the business connections of Gordon Biersch, for example, maybe some business or chamber of commerce type on the library advisory commission. We're pretty well diverse as far as age and stage in life, but maybe activities in the community. So to me, that's a priority on my mind, because I'm not going to be able to reapply when my term is up. I'm going to have to be off.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
If you see anyone asking a lot of questions, just make sure that they know that there's an opening soon.
Oh, can't we be a little more targeted than that?
Well, I'm just saying, someone who's... Sure.
Would any of you be willing to do a interview with the media to talk about what your job here entails, and then to also possibly discuss that opening and what that potential would mean? And that way too, it's a great opportunity to tell the story of the library and what your experience has been.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I'm game. What about you guys?
Absolutely. Great.
I believe we were recently asked about that from the council, or at least or it was related to the recruiting for all of the commissions. We were asked, why we joined in the first place and everything like that. So many of us have recently been thinking about those things. So it's, yeah. And it actually makes sense, because we're not necessarily, city employees. We're just, people around living in Palo Alto that have an interest in this. That makes a lot of sense.
Always hire people smarter than yourself.
Good
move.
So, are
And
there
I
things we
would-
can do to help?
Yeah, I would say from our perspective at the moment, unless you are skilled with a hammer and a paintbrush, no. But I know that, both Sheena and Eileen have been involved with the planning for the opening events. And there will be a lot of marketing outreach. There will be a lot of targeted stuff that is not necessarily generated by the library, but by the whole group. So there is that. And at the moment, again, there's not anything specific. We may call on you when we do get into the building to come and test out some of the equipment. We may have you try to use the AMH. We may have you come and use the self-checks.
Ourselves, like hold on to the book and climb into it?
Yeah.
Like sort ourselves?
Not sort yourself, just sort the book.
Okay.
And just maybe even do some role playing with the staff in terms of customer interactions. We will be working on sort of updating our customer service skills, and that will be helpful. So we will call on you, and if you're available, great. If you're not, we understand. It may be over multiple days. We're not, we haven't worked that out because again, we're just sort of waiting.
Wayfinding presumably is going to be
that would be great. Yeah, absolutely. And there were things that I've been thinking about, like potentially having podcasts that explain the building so that you have something to listen to. Different kinds of things like that. So as we clarify the list a little more carefully, and it may not necessarily be tied to just the opening, it may be later on as we find out where people are having sticking points, or, are we getting more involved questions about the public art, for example, then are we going to work with the Public Art Commission to create something more than what we already have planned? Just different things like that. So I don't have anything specific that you could do today.
Are you planning or thinking to have non-staff, like a volunteered? I'm sure that people are going to be very curious to look around the building, but they may not understand, things about the technology, the environmental aspects of the building, or even the origins of some of the art and how it connects to the building and things like that. Are you thinking to have like a docent or, tours and things like that? And it doesn't have to be the staff. I'm sure you can find volunteers.
Yes, all of that's
Okay.
in the works. So
Cool.
there's a lot of different kinds of outreach tools, whether it's part of the digital signage, like a hidden or a sort of like a Where's Waldo finding game for kids to look for the ecoglyphs, and docents to one of the things that Ruth Ann Garcia, the branch manager, was very interested in is looking at some of the docent programs that they have at Stanford for their green buildings, and replicating that for Mitchell Park in particular. So there are a number of things that we have planned for, whether it's guided, self-guided. First Friday of every month, there's a tour at 1:00, however that's going to work out. But yes,
If you have like a little QR code in those places that you're guiding someone, you can, load up some kind of URL, and that sort of kill two birds with one stone if you already have the information online.
Yeah,
kind of point
actually,
to the different things.
yeah, we don't necessarily, but that's a really good addition that we can include.
So, and would your podcast be around the building that people could then listen to on their smartphones?
Yes, that's what I'm
Those
hoping.
little audio things in museums.
Exactly. That's where the idea came from.
Yeah,
A colleague on the National Arts Strategies program that I'm working through. So,
just an update that the steering committee for the Mitchell Park and Community Center canceled, and the marketing work group, the meeting canceled as well, just because we don't know when. That's why everything is canceled. Just to let you know that it seems that really has nothing to do if we really want to help. Don't know where and how.
I still think you should definitely somehow reach out to the community. We talked, trying to get people to check out a lot of materials before we close temporary Mitchell, just to have less stuff to move.
yeah. Yes. And again, because we like I said, we thought we were going to be moving in in November, and so we suspended Link Plus service, and people are really cranky about that, and we didn't want to do anything further to get people irritated with us. So we're looking for a way to restart that in the interim, perhaps at another library. But I agree with you, yeah, promoting the idea of, just check out as many books as you can and keep them until we reopen. It'll help us out. So it's a great way for the community to help us.
Okay. So, yeah. So, not seeing other points to be made, we can move on to the library director's report.
I don't really have anything to add. I do actually have one handout that Evelyn is distributing. I thought this might be of interest to you. This is a report from the city's IT department. It's just one page. It's got a little bit on the back side, but it does outline how it's their report for last fiscal year of the library's portion of the budget and who the contacts are, and sort of what the library department, we're 5% of the citywide IT spending. It's approximately $15,000 per year expense per full-time employee, and you can see the comparison to citywide. And the core technologies that are available to all employees, what's currently available to the library department, and again, it does go on to the backside. But I thought that this is the IT value report. IT began this year. It's on the back. It's very tiny.
Very tiny.
And so they plan to do this regularly and provide this information. So I just thought I would share it with you. It came in the interim, and I thought it would be a nice introduction to a new reporting tool. Other than that, the basic information's attached, what we've been involved in working on, and if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Is the IT department managing the Chromebooks as well?
No. They don't. We procure and support the Chromebooks, and they procure and we support any Apple products.
Because I don't see Google Chrome, like the browser, on this either.
Yeah, Google Chrome conflicts with Deep Freeze and SAM. We've been testing it for the new Mitchell Park. We have had Jonathan Reichenthal has been in contact with Google and people that he knows there. We believe that by the time Mitchell Park opens, that should be solved. So it's kind of nice to have those personal contacts who are, able to help us out. But yeah, Chrome is not on there. Chromebooks are our own thing. Any other questions about any of the correspondence or?
I had an email this afternoon from somebody that lives near Maine who said that she really appreciated having a temporary facility in the Art Center, even though it wasn't very big, but was upset because it was only open during the day. And she wanted to know if it was possible to keep it open until the evening, at least one night a week, or have it open on weekends, because she works and then she can't use the library. And I know we've got a problem with staff availability. I just thought I'd throw it out and mention it, that it is an issue to at least some people that live near Maine. And of course, when Mitchell Park closes, it's going to be more of a problem to people because they're accustomed to using Mitchell Park all day. And that's not going to be available. And of course, if Maine isn't available in the evenings, people are not going to be happy.
Right. So we're constantly looking at the availability of the staff and what hours we are open. We are looking at ways to provide services in alternate locations. That's why we did add the evening hours at downtown, with the idea that we'd be able to serve those folks who are not at Temporary Maine. But Temporary Maine is open on both weekend days, so it's open both Saturdays and Sundays. We have instituted a system for the reference librarians to be very available by phone. We do a lot of phone pickup of the reference questions, and even if they're not at that location. So you're not at Mitchell Park, but if you called Mitchell Park, you would get someone who might be able to help you virtually, even if you can't come in. The holds will move to Children's Library. I mean, there is a plan in place so that we're not, not completely cutting off service. We recognize it'll be a drag. We know that it'll be a drag for us too, and we want to find as many options as possible, keeping in mind that we really want the staff to be dedicated at the new Mitchell Park, getting it ready to be open as quickly as possible. So I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver in terms of how quickly we can get the building turned around. But it is a key point that we understand it will be uncomfortable. We encourage people to go to other libraries and in the system, and if you really need to use Mountain View or Sunnyvale, we'll be okay with that for a short time, but come back to us. So, but thank you for pointing that out. So, we'll keep working with staff to look at open hours. Thank you.
So just before you go on, I just have two comments because they're not being specifically called out, but I happen to be one of those people who live right next door to Maine, and I have to say I'm amazed at the work that the crew is doing. That, like last week during the deep freeze, you'd see guys out there at 8 a.m. pressure washing the building. I mean, when it's freezing, the roof they're already putting the shingles on. Every day you see huge transformation over in that project. I'm just really impressed by what I can see just through the fence, and this gives us a little bit of it, but watching the team I think is great. The other thing is, since Monique's not really talking about it, I don't think so, the presentation that was done to council, and I'll let Gail actually give the real feedback, but I went to that and I thought it was a fabulous presentation. I thought that the people they brought in a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. It was just really rapid fire, just thing after thing after thing, really high level. But it was so nice to have council actually, pretty much everybody said, there's so much you guys are doing that we didn't know about, and I appreciate it. But I thought it was a fabulous presentation, and I thought it was really well received by council.
So now we move on to the council liaison report.
I don't think I have anything new to add. Many items were discussed tonight. I do have thank you notes to everyone because I've enjoyed being the liaison to the LAC, and so I brought them with me today. And this is to thank you for your work, and I do really appreciate it. And I thought it would be appropriate, since this is my last meeting, unless I'm the liaison again. Normally it's rotated, so I don't, that's the mayor's job to do assignments and to make sure we all have opportunities to work with different groups. So, but I wanted to thank you again. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for
Thanks.
being our liaison and keeping us in touch.
Sure, no problem.
Yes, thank you. Are there any commissioner reports and questions? Or please.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have one for the foundation because I missed the other meeting. This came out some months ago. You've probably seen it.
And we know that there was nothing to report from the meeting that did not happen. Yeah. So any comments and announcements? Okay. Agenda for the next meeting, which I believe is in February. Guess an update on Mitchell Park. Makes
I think we ought to get an update on Maine also, because it seems to be moving along, and my assumption is that the progress is going to be on schedule, and we're going to be talking about opening it up in late this year, next year, in late 2014. So it wouldn't hurt to have at least a brief summary of where we are with Maine.
Yes, and you did have in your packet this time the regular update. So
Yeah, I thought that's one of the reasons it stuck in my mind that, gee, it looks so good in the report, let's have a brief discussion. It doesn't be very detailed.
yes, I'll see if someone from Public Works is available. Sure.
Is it too early to start having tours, or I mean, is it still too?
It is.
Too many open holes in the ground and things like that.
I haven't even had a tour. So,
Okay.
And they were, the contractor, the construction manager was just saying, yeah, maybe after the holidays it'll be ready for us to have an initial tour. So, as that becomes available, I will be in touch with you to schedule it.
Okay. It's not part of the agenda, but just unofficial meeting. Well, it won't be with all of us.
It will be properly noticed if you are all there.
Okay.
Or you'll go in groups that constitute
Yeah.
less than a quorum.
Okay, see, unless there are any other items that,
Oh, just out of curiosity, will you have data on circulation for the calendar year 2013, circulation and visits?
For the calendar year, we don't normally do the calendar year. I can look into generating some basics. We would do a 6-month,
Okay, well,
the
that's the same
first
thing.
half of the fiscal year.
Yeah, we have the data through last June, so if we
Correct.
did July 1st to December 31st.
Correct.
That'll give us an idea. I'm trying to get an idea whether the circulation and visits are holding up or we're having a drop-off. It's, just something we should be keeping our eye on. If you have the data, wonderful.
Yes, we do, and we can discuss general trends. I think holding up in the smaller places might be an unrealistic expectation, but right now we're in the holidays, so it's a little bit less, busy. But we'll get you that information. Sure.
Will you have any information on the Orange Boy report work or the strategic plan process?
I can. Well, this could be a question. How about that? This is a council member question. We will be getting an initial, actually a second report from Orange Boy at the end of January, and we will be doing training with staff on the tools beginning in February. So there may be information available. What we've had to date are an analysis of the cardholder, the cardholders, their demographic information, their location, geographic location, that kind of information. So if there is, I will update. We can present it. Otherwise, I won't be able to, but I'll just give you an update. And then the strategic planning process, we will be working with the consultant. Right now, we're in the contracting phase. So.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but maybe just looking at recruiting our replacements, or if there has been, I'm thinking of the presentation of the recommendation of renaming, what was Main Library, the Rinconada name, where that might be in the process. It all depends on where it is with council.
Well, as always, if there are other things that come up, we can add them to the agenda. So please feel free to suggest them to Evelyn if there are some things that come up, because we always finalize the agenda before a week before. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I second it.
All right, then we are.